But those are just some models that can be contrasted. Staples also says there's 10 tools for taking power. And one of the things in community organizing, all the organizers that write stuff, they come up with something like 10 tools, or 10 rules, or 10 this, or 10, it gotta be 10. You can't have 9, it gotta be 10. But basically he says there's 10 tools for taking power. The first is do it yourself. Because when we look around, particularly sometimes when we look around, we say, well, there's something needs to be done about this. And sometimes we go ask somebody to do it, they just ignore us. We ask them to get it, they ignore us. We need to sometimes ask ourselves, do we have it within our power to do it ourselves? Because some of the things we can just go and do. I would have thought I was smart. I have a class at Pitt, and I was kind of get this good exercise that we could do in class to help teach some of the practices of community organizing. So Pitt has this big building they call it Cathedral Learning. It's 36 stories high. And I'm up on floor 23, and I'm in the same room I taught in last year and the year before. And I teach in the wintertime, and the room's always cold. Cold. I mean, cold. Kids got their coats on. I got my coat on. It's cold. And this is a big university charging all this money on a contract. So I said, well, our campaign this term is going to be to get this heat, this temperature thing taken care of. So we really thought about all the things we got to do. We could march on the dean's office. we could march on the chancellor's office. We could get a petition going with all the people up and down the hall. We went through all these different things that we could have done. If we went to the do-it-yourself model, we could have turned that little thermostat. And the next thing that was kind of not really antagonistic is there was a phone number on the board right up here. Somebody, I don't know, building services or somebody. So that's what we did. We called him up, and some guy named Mark, he came before the class was over. And he did something over there. Next thing you know, we had heat. But you know, sometimes you just gotta take action. You know somebody's responsible, it's a big thing, but you sit there and watch. I'll get to that again too. Developing persuasive arguments is an important part of community organizing in terms of one of the tools. You really got to know your stuff if you're going to persuade someone to do what you want them to do when they don't want to do it. Or stop them from doing what they want to do. You got to have a persuasive argument. It might not be enough, but you got to have it just in case you need it. It might work. You need to raise awareness and consciousness to build your membership or recruit people. You got to get more people involved by letting them know what the story is about, why they should participate. You can use existing laws, policies, and processes against someone. In our neighborhood, one time we were trying to get rid of all the alcohol and tobacco billboards. So we go to the billboard company and say, we don't want no alcohol and tobacco billboards in the neighborhood. You got too many. All of them is in the Hill District. There's none in this neighborhood. This neighborhood don't have no billboards at all. This neighborhood they have billboards, but no alcohol and tobacco billboards. How come they're all in our neighborhood? We were doing that kind of stuff, trying to be persuasive. They didn't listen to us. So what we did eventually, we had to go and find, there's this code they have, the Outdoor Advertising Association of America Code of Ethics or something like that. So we got their code and we showed they were in violation of their own code. So we really highlighted using existing laws, policies, and procedures. They were violating their own procedures, and we really stuck them on that, and eventually they had to change the billboards. They had too many within so many feet of schools and so many feet of churches. That was their rules, so they violated their own rules, and we used those against them. We need to create and change laws, policies, and procedures when there aren't effective ones in place. We need to generate publicity. Publicity, we're trying to generate 2 publicities when we do that. We're the good guys and they're the bad guys. We're trying to develop 2 images to the media, and we're trying to promote both of those images, and we have to cultivate each one in the struggle that we work on. We need to exercise electoral power. Sometimes voting can help us win what we need to do. We need to figure out who gets appointed to what. Sometimes the right appointment will be helpful and the wrong one will be hurtful. And we need to make sure we can have some impact on that. We can exercise our consumer power, ranging from boycotts to even supporting people that are supportive of us. We can disrupt business as usual as well as one of the things that we can do to affect change when we're trying to make change in the community. Essentially, when we're doing organizing, now I'm shifting, I went from Staples, that's a good book, Staples, Roots to Power. The first person I talked about when I did the history, a person named Rinku Sen, she wrote a book called Stir It Up. And it's actually a good book as well, but she's been an organizer. Both of them have been organizers for a long time, and they have real good information. Now I'm going to switch over to somebody else, David Beckwith, who worked at the Center for Community Change. There's no handout for him, so you're going to have to follow along. I do have some high technology stuff over here from him. But basically, he says that there are 4 strategies for community organizing people power from the grassroots. And he distinguishes community organizing from advocacy, from service delivery, and from development. So community organizing is one thing, community advocacy is something a little bit different, community service delivery is something a little bit different, and community development is something different. And basically the distinguishing things he does is, the key about community organizing is community organizing organizes volunteers. That's our job. We're organizing people from the community, volunteers, to get involved to make a change. That's the key thing that sets community organizing apart. Those volunteers are usually some kind of members, some member organizations we're trying to organize. But we organize volunteers, and the volunteers that we organize have to have some kind of say in what we do. We're not just organizing to make these phone calls, and that's it. Although that might be how somebody starts on the process. But they have to have a real stake and a real empowerment stake on what takes place and what goes on. Community advocacy, and so, well, backing up, community organizing is organizing volunteers to act on their own behalf, to do it themselves. Community advocacy and service delivery, as opposed to community organizing, is where we do stuff for people. Lawyers advocate for you, we'll advocate for you, or we'll provide services for you. Instead of you calling up downtown to straighten it out, we'll call up and we'll refer you, we'll give you referrals. I'll give you a referral instead of you making that call yourself or looking in the phone book. Because sometimes when we do service delivery referral, that's all we do. And we might know the people at the other end of the line, or we might know a little bit more, but basically they could do that, they could have done most of that themselves if they really looked it up. We're really interested. Community development is distinguished because in community development, we get the group to directly get involved in producing a product, a building, a neighborhood. We do community development that way. We're developing some product to be, or goods or services even sometimes, but community development is distinct. So just some distinguishing features of community organizing. Community organizing is not merely a process that's good for its own sake. Unless we win something concrete, it won't last. If we're not winning things for the members, the organization won't last. We're not just organizing so we can all talk and share and discuss and argue. I mean, we like that, but that's not why we do this. We do this to win concrete things. Community organizing is not just a neighborhood thing, not just a minority thing, not just a 60s thing. A lot of times when we're organizing, particularly when someone disagrees with what we're doing, they say, oh, that stuff you're doing, that went out a long time ago. Now you're using these old methods and this is a new time. They keep trying to refer to what we do as something that's outdated. But essentially it's community organizing that continues to win victories of all kinds and continues to win victories all around us all the time. And the basics of community organizing haven't really changed much. But 4 kind of strategies, the community organizing, advocacy, service delivery, community development. The next thing Beckwith is really sharing is principles of community organizing.